Gravitas, co-presented by Skoda. Kushaq, choose what really matters.
The world's leading powers are showing the same level of reluctance, I have to say, when it comes to taking Afghan refugees, the men and women trying to flee the Taliban's terror regime. Very few countries want to take them in. One of them is Kosovo. It has opened its doors to refugees. It is processing refugees on behalf of the US. Earlier today, I spoke to Vjosa Osmani, the president of Kosovo. She says the decision to take in these refugees is both moral and personal for her. Here's an excerpt from that conversation. Vjosa Osmani, welcome to WION.
Thank you very much.
As we speak, we know that a major international crisis is playing out. The Taliban have taken complete control of Afghanistan, triggering a refugee crisis, among other things. And Kosovo, like I said in my introduction, has decided to host some of the Afghan refugees. How is your government trying to help them?
Well, first and foremost, we believe that this is a moral obligation. We have been refugees ourselves during the 90s, and we are alive today because the world did not turn their backs on us. We were helped by democratic countries around the world, and Kosovo refugees were taken in by so many countries, from the United States to New Zealand, every continent, to be more exact. So now, 22 years after the war in Kosovo, when Kosovo is moving forward as a democratic nation and it's prospering and thriving, we believe that it's a moral obligation to help those in need, in this case, the Afghan refugees. Secondly, as you know, there is an international law obligation not to close doors to refugees, according to the International Convention on Refugees. And as a country, as a member of the international community, of course, we want to respect these international obligations. And third, as I've pointed out in many statements so far, we want to stand by our ally, the United States of America, and to help the international community to cope with this human tragedy that is going to, of course, touch in so many ways the lives of the Afghan citizens. So far, there are about 1,000 Afghans that have arrived in Kosovo. Every day, practically, we are welcoming more and more Afghan refugees, all of them with their families, with little kids who need support, who need a safe haven. And we are very proud that as the Republic of Kosovo, we are being able to help the international community in this effort.
It's interesting to hear you, President Osmani, because at a time when most countries do not even honor legal obligations, you're talking about having a moral obligation towards these refugees. And I understand that this is not just a political decision for you. It has a personal dimension. You yourself have experienced what the Afghans are going through. You left Albania for Kosovo as a refugee. How did you feel when you first saw the heartbreaking scenes from Kabul?
These are truly heartbreaking scenes for every Kosovo citizen. Just to put everything into perspective, Kosovo has about 1.7 million citizens, and during the war, about 1 million of us were forced to leave our homes. Many were IDPs, internally displaced persons, but most were refugees in the countries around. And then from those countries around, whether Albania, Montenegro, or Macedonia, they were taken to other countries who opened their doors for us. United States, Canada, all the way, as I said, to Australia and New Zealand, but practically most of the world opened their doors to us. So we truly feel the pain, although there's no political comparison between the situation in Afghanistan and what happened in Kosovo. The people of my country were subject to a genocidal regime, the Milosevic genocidal regime from Serbia. We have paid a very heavy price for the freedom and independence that we enjoy today. The price was really, really high, which is the reason why we will never give up on our country's right to exist. But this puts us in a situation to really understand the human suffering of those who are fleeing from terror, from repression, and from these difficult situations that the Afghan citizens are facing now. Under the new rule from the Taliban. We absolutely understand the human suffering, which is why we want to do our part in helping. Obviously, our capacities are limited, but as much as they are, we're going to put them in the service of helping these people who need now not just Kosovo, but they need all of us. They need India, they need the United States. They need every democratic country that believes in democratic values.
Let's talk about India's relationship with Kosovo. New Delhi, we know, does not recognize Kosovo as an independent nation. In 2011, American embassy cables released by WikiLeaks revealed that the US was trying to pressurize India to recognize Kosovo's independence, but India declined because it feared that such a recognition could have implications in Kashmir. What's your view on India's position?
We, of course, once again call upon the Indian government to, first of all, recognize the suffering of the people of Kosovo from the Milosevic genocidal regime, to secondly, recognize the reality in the ground that is not going to change. It's just a matter of time when countries like India will join other democratic countries around the world in recognizing the sovereign independent Republic of Kosovo. And thirdly, call upon the Indian government to recognize what the International Court of Justice said. The International Court of Justice, which is the UN court, the World Court, has explicitly provided that the independence of Kosovo is in line with international law. And it has also clarified that it is a sui generis case that does not compare to any other place around the world that is seeking recognition. So the specificities of how Kosovo became independent make it so different with other regions like Kashmir. But I think the best argument in this case is what the International Court of Justice has said. And these are judges that decide without any political pressure or any bias when it comes to which country they come from. So many of those judges came from countries that did not recognize Kosovo, like Brazil, let's say, but they voted in favor because the legal arguments are in favor and because the situations are extremely different from situations in Kashmir or elsewhere in the world.
President Vjosa Osmani, thanks very much for speaking to us here on WION.
Thank you for having me.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
Gravitas, co-presented by Skoda. Kushak, choose what really matters.